Good morning and welcome back to MorningLine. I'm Matthew Torres. Here with me today is author Korbey, who's also been an education reporter, hence why she is the perfect person to speak to when it comes to speaking to your children and when it comes to politics. How do we keep things civil? And I asked you over the break, as far as, look, kids are coming from homes, parents with passionate beliefs. This is what they've been told. This is what they have heard. How do you cut through that to make sure that that doesn't really transpire into the classroom to where the disagreements can blow up?
Yeah, absolutely. And so what I was telling you is that, you know, we've kind of, all of America, we've sorted ourselves into kind of political bubbles. So a lot of times kids come into classrooms only hearing one side of a political issue, which is fine. But what classrooms can do and what education can do is give kids exposure to what other people think. And according to all the experts I talked to, as long as these discussions occur using facts and evidence, that it's wonderful to let kids argue topics that are well supported by facts and let them see that not everyone thinks the way I do about this topic.
The differences.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's actually a wonderful program happening right here in Nashville at Hume-Fogg High School that's called Project Civ America. The librarian at Hume-Fogg, I write about this in the book. Her name is Amanda Littlefield, and she has a once-a-month discussion on a hot-button controversial political topic during lunch. And about 100 kids show up, and they put little name tags on that identify themselves as Republican or Democrat or centrist, and then they sit down and they discuss the topic civilly. And she teaches them how not just to talk about their opinion, but how to listen. And when I interviewed the kids,
The concept of listening.
Both the liberals and the moderates and the conservatives have all learned something about the topics they're most passionate about by listening to kids whose opinions differ from theirs.
Now, do we have to have events, projects like this? Because growing up for me, politics was not sexy, it was not interesting by all means. And we figure out how to find the both sides post school when you start reading things. But it seems like now you have to do it early on. What is so different now compared to when I was in school, 10, 15 years ago to 20 years ago to when you were in high school?
Yeah, I mean, this is the big reason I wrote the book, is because Generation Z, the teenagers who are living now, are very unique in that they are the most racially and culturally diverse. They're on track to be the best educated, and they're the most digitally connected, tech-savvy generation in American history. And so when we look at today's teenagers, we realize that they get 100% of their information from the phone in their pockets. 98% of teenagers have their own phone. And that the internet and cell phones is the key of where they get all their news and all their information. And so, you know, what I was joking with you about is that politics is cool again. That because of the Parkland kids and because of people like Greta Thunberg and the climate protests, that kids from all sides of the political spectrum are really being drawn into activism.
It seems crucial. It is crucial knowing how they can easily get information outside of school.
Oh, absolutely.
And so there's the idea as well, obviously working in media, the term fake news has become rampant. And I just even looked through comments. Just because there may have been a mistake, then it's all of a sudden fake news. How do you combat that when it comes to media literacy?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is maybe the biggest and most important topic when we talk about the new civics, is teaching kids how to tell the difference between what's true and what's not true online. The researcher
Sounds like a college course.
Yeah, right? The researcher Sam Weinberg, who's at Stanford, he told me basically that if we don't do something about this very soon, that we will take democracy down. In his research, he's found that the majority of teenagers teenagers cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's not real online. So as far as media literacy curriculum is concerned, that's kind of the umbrella term. Schools are scrambling right now to teach kids this, but there's a big problem with it in that it's such a new issue that there are no evidence-based practices that we know work. So there's a lot of, in media literacy, a lot of throwing spaghetti at the wall to see if it will stick. So one of the most important things that is happening right now is, and I write about Sam Weinberg and his team's research, is that they are working very hard to come up with some evidence-based practices. And in the last week, he has posted on the Stanford History Education Group website some assessments and some curriculum and some tips for teachers based on research on how to help kids learn about fake news online.
We're able to read it?
Well, yes. So this is really cool. What he thinks that kids need to have is the equivalent of what he calls a digital driver's license. And so he compares it to learning how to drive. He said that you know, when you learn how to drive, you don't learn every single aspect of how a car works, right? You learn a few basic skills that you're of safety, so you know where you need to go. So he found through his research that the most effective media literacy curriculum was to teach kids how to be journalistic fact checkers. So when they watched fact checkers at the New Yorker and the New York Times and NPR, what they found was they could locate a website very quickly and find out who's behind the website, whether the information was supported by research. So that's what they're going to teach kids how to do.
Be their own journalists.
That's right. That's exciting, right?
Who knew? Now journalism is cool too.
That's right.
But that's really what the essence of what we do as well, when we try to confirm information and just knowing, all right, what we see normally isn't what's always
exactly
believed.
That's right.
I love that. That's a great. I'm curious to know if any of the schools in Tennessee might pick up these practices, or who knows, the lady we were speaking about at Hume Fogg.
Yeah, absolutely.
For adults, I know this is so. We've been talking about students, but when adults are so firm with their beliefs and stance, do you think there's still hope when it comes to trying to hear the other side, whether you're a Democrat or Republican? Is there even hope, because both are so extreme?
Well, so there are several organizations, some of them located here in Nashville, that are really working on that. There's an organization called Better Angels, and there's also one called Living Room Conversations. And what both of these organizations are trying to do is get people of different beliefs together in a kind of low pressure conversation environment to just allow adults to hear each other, because I think that we've become so unable to hear the other side, and some of those conversations have turned out really wonderfully.
So are they just asking people to come?
Yes, just asking people to come. You can go to their websites and they have events posted where you can just go volunteer to go listen and talk and share your opinion.
I love that.
Yeah.
I want to do a story about that. No, that's great. For you, I know you said you've learned things along the way, but just personally, outside of the school setting, what have you learned writing this book? Okay,
well, so I have learned a lot. There are two things that I'm doing differently now. I have 3 boys who are 16, 13, and 9.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, my hands. Yeah, they're
the true hero right here.
So 2 things I'm doing differently is that I volunteered. I stepped up my PTO game, because one thing that I realized was that democracy does not work if we don't participate in it. And because of the internet, a lot of volunteering has really fallen off the cliff since the birth of the internet. I think people think that they're doing good when they post something positive on Facebook, but really, to help civic engagement, you have to get out in the world. So I volunteer at my PTO, and I'm a part of discussions about the budget and about discipline reform or whatever it is, because I realize how important it is to be a part of the decisions that get made in your community.
And you're almost working the muscle that hasn't been worked on before?
Well, because what I learned is democracy is all about disagreement. Like, the process is very slow. It is, you feel sometimes like you're not making any progress, but it's intended to be that way, so that we make sure that we all have a similar idea moving forward. The other thing that I've kind of always done, but now I've really stepped up my game, and my husband and I, is talking about current events at the dinner table. So we want to make sure that our kids have some idea of what's going on in the world and how that impacts us. Because, passing down your values, your political values, is really important to make sure that we raise the next generation of people who are interested.
So the education doesn't just land in the classroom.
Absolutely not, yeah.
I do love about the volunteering thing. It's not just the classic term, don't just talk the talk, walk the walk.
Yeah.
And I think, even for me personally, I think everyone can use a little bit more engagement with their community. And I think that's a very important thing to say. So I know we've talked a lot. So again, any questions or comments, feel free to call 615-737+. We'll have more of this conversation after the break.